Okay, let's play with some of these. So we're going to be using product rule, quotient rule, power rule, all the rules we've learned. Constant rule. K prime will be. So I've got a sum here. The sum rule says just distribute. Just take the derivative of each one and then add them together. So the first thing I want is the derivative of this guy. So the derivative of 3 times something, that 3 just comes along for the ride, times the derivative of the function. So all I've done so far is this guy. Now, you might look at that and go, but wait a minute, that's a product. So let's just pause for a moment and just focus on this guy here and think of that as a product and apply product rule to it. I'm going to prove something to you here. So if we think of this as a product, there's the first guy, this is the second. Product rule says derivative of the first, derivative of 3 is 0. Derivative of a constant is 0. Times, leave the second alone, plus derivative of the second times leave the first alone. Well, 0 times anything is just 0. I just get 3h prime. I get the same thing I wrote a minute ago. Don't do product rule when one of your functions is a constant. You're just wasting your time. The derivative of a constant is 0. I don't have to do product rule on this. The constant just comes along for the ride. That's one of the hardest things for students to pick up on. Constants just come along for the ride when you're taking derivatives. So I want 3 times the derivative of the actual function, so h prime. Plus, now look, I've got a product here. I'm going to have to do product rule on this. Derivative of the first, leave the second alone. That's a 2x right there. Derivative of x squared is 2x, leave the second alone, plus derivative of the first one times leave the second alone. Okay, and then we don't know h and g. We can't do anything else with it. This was just an exercise in product rule. Okay, what if you've got 3 functions and you want to do product rule? So when we teach you product rule, quotient rule, we teach all these, we always say in terms of f and g. Forget about the f's and g. Think first and second. So don't think in terms of f and g here. I know I got f's and g's here, but I need to break this up into 2 functions multiplied. So I'm going to call this guy here my first function, and all of these guys together my second. We're going to have to product rule this guy twice. So I'm going to write just 1, 2. Derivative is first derivative, leave the second alone, plus second derivative, leave the first alone. These are not numbers. I'm saying this is our order. So K prime would be, I've got 2 things multiplied together. So I want the derivative of the first equals derivative of the first times leave the second alone. Plus derivative of the second. Oh no. I've got to do product rule here on these 2. So what's the product rule derivative of these 2? Derivative of the first, leave the second alone, plus derivative of the second, leave the first alone. All that's times, leave f alone. Let me go through this one really quickly again. So product rule, I've got 2 functions. This one times that one. Derivative of the first times the second, plus derivative of the second times the first. But in order to find 2 prime, I had to use product rule again. Okay, let's play a similar game here with quotient rule. So 1 over 2, I'm not talking about numbers here. Maybe I should put like circles around these. Anytime you have a fraction, the derivative of that fraction is derivative of the top times leave the bottom alone minus derivative of the bottom times leave the top alone, all over the bottom squared. So I'm going to have to use quotient rule. But up here on top, I've got a product. I'm going to have to also use product rule. So I'm going to have to combine rules together here. H prime will be derivative of the top. Oh, I got to use product rule there. So what's the derivative of the top? Here's my first. I'm going to call this guy here my first function. This one my second. I'm only working on this part right here, derivative of the top. That would be 6x squared times k. That's derivative of the first times the second. Plus derivative of the second times leave the first alone. That's all just derivative of the top. That's all I've done is this. Times leave the bottom alone. Minus the derivative of the bottom. The derivative of 3x, I need a lot of parentheses here. Derivative of 3x is 3, plus derivative of 2 is just 0. So 3 plus 0 is 3. Times, that's derivative of the bottom, times leave the top alone. All over the bottom in parentheses squared. That's a good place to stop.